What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Clark After Dark. Today I have on a dear friend, Jason Hamilton. Jason is currently a teacher in his first full year and is currently teaching grade junior high social studies and is also running our hockey program here at the school. On this episode, Jason and I discuss reading our dad's energy, which created our chill personas, not wanting to do labor jobs, his experience working as a laborer and thinking, hell no, the trait of passion for pay in some jobs, not really wanting to hang out with your work friends after seeing them all day every day, how his mentor teacher helped him believe he had the skills for teaching, being able to relate to the kids, how I admired Jason's dusty dangles back in the day, what sports provide for kids even if they are not good at them, living away from home to play sports, his experience as a new coach, coaching sports you've never played, realizing if you actually are an imposter and needing to quit certain things, what different coaches bring, avoiding confrontation, not drinking coffee, our social battery, and of course, much more. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. You're doing less or you feel different. Yeah. But I remember when we were doing it was funny because when we went golfing at Rotary this one time, you were still, I don't even think you had done your practicum yet.
No, I didn't.
You still hadn't done your practicum.
I had my fourth year left. I remember that because we were done.
Because it was the first time I had seen you. I mean, we kind of knew each other and literally a decade, which is actually crazy. Now that you say that, that's crazy. And
God bless Michael Travers.
But I remember you were saying, you know what, man, it's just all about the kids. We're just, and which is, you were saying all the right things that I was saying, right before my practicum, where I've been kind of soiled by it a little bit, where you kind of get into it and you get into the everyday and you're just what are we doing? So I guess, how do you compare your pre-practicum thoughts, feelings, perceptions to now?
Yeah.
Corona living, but
definitely need one of those when the time comes.
When the time comes.
I feel like practicum, so let's just talk about the first one.
Sure.
So IFX, right? Your very first one. Yeah. No idea. No idea if I knew what I was doing. Walking into it, terrified.
It is terrifying.
Terrified. And I'm a people person, so I enjoy working with people, talking with people, but I was going into my IFX, I was terrified.
So what do you mean by a people person?
I love hanging out with people. I love making people laugh. Just speaking with people. When I hang out with people or even just speak, my girlfriend, she loves me, but she,
but
we went to Thailand.
Yes.
And you know how when you go to different countries, there's little pop-up shops, right? They want you to buy things.
I've only been to the US, so.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I've been to Thailand or Mexico with my parents growing up, there'd always be these little markets and stuff, right? Where you walk through the market and they're like, hey, buy this, I need you to buy this.
Yeah.
Clark, we walked through a market in Thailand. It was at night. I must have said no or sorry, I can't buy that to every single person. And to where my girlfriend's dragging me by the arm. She's like, you don't need to talk to these people. And I'm like, you know what? They're giving me their time of day. I feel really bad if I can't even say sorry.
Yeah.
Which is kind of where, just as a people person, I feel like everybody deserves the time, you know what I mean?
Yes, everyone, if they're willing to engage with you, it's you feel the urge to reciprocate.
100%. Yeah. And then now if we relate that to teaching, right? Yeah. I have 40 kids in a class.
Literally.
Close, right? Close. A lot of kids in a class.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make them, I want them all to know that I see them every single day. It's kind of where I want to try and just, even if I don't get to talk to them that day. Yeah. So that's where it's greeting people and sending them away at the end of the class. I try and say hello to every single person that walks in the door, and I try and say goodbye to every single person that walks out the door. And that's where I guess if just on that topic, just being a people person where it's hey, I don't care who you are, what you look like, what you believe in. Yeah. If you like me, if you hate me, I will say have a good day, and I will put out my fist, pound it.
Knock it.
And out of 36, probably 34.
Yeah.
Will give me it. And there's this one kid who's it's never going to happen, sir.
At least they're being polite.
And I have he challenges me, right? Like we have challenges with each other. But overall, I think I'm going to get him by the end of the year. I know that I'm going to get it, that he's going to know that, I just mean well.
Yeah.
And that's kind of really all that it's about.
Yeah. And so I guess, how did you, even though you are a people pleaser, why still nervous going into practicum 1?
Because that imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
I still felt like a student, right?
Yes.
Because I was a student at university. Yeah. It's funny. It's weird age in your early 20s, I find.
Yeah.
You still feel like, hey, I just finished high school, but hey, I'm an adult.
Yeah.
But I was still living at my mom and dad's, right? Yeah. Like, so again, they were taking care of me that way. Like I was living at their place in Edmonton. So I was still taking care of myself, cooking, cleaning, all that sort of stuff. But when it came to bills, they were still taking care of me mostly on that part.
Yeah.
So I didn't really feel like, my fully independent self. And then part of that was kind of like just like that imposter syndrome going into practicum. Am I really going to be able to do this teaching thing? I didn't know that going into it because I went through it was my third year of university, I went through 3 years of university, and then I got into my fourth year, which is when I finally did my first practicum. So I was 3 years in, wow. And if you put that in money perspective, you're thousands and thousands of dollars into university.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy crap, is this really what I'm going to do? Like, is it really what I want to do? I knew like it was what I wanted to do. Did you ever
consider doing anything else?
Yeah, man, it took me a long, long time to decide what I wanted to do. So I was like trying to figure out, I thought about being a power engineer. So I looked into that, doing that at Keanu, being a power engineer. Because my thing, Clark, was I always wanted to do something where I had the ability to move around if I wanted to.
Yes.
Don't know if I'll stay in Fort McMurray forever. I have no problem staying here forever.
Yeah. I'm saying boat. In terms of like not wanting.
But I love really having the options, right? Yep. Which again, you could have did that with any trade. Watching my dad, he was a mechanic for 40 years. He worked for a long, long time. He worked a lot of hard jobs growing up, like just labor intensive.
Yeah.
Which I have no problem doing those. But just watching him coming home, being kind of grumpy after a hard day of work or 6 days in a row.
Just like your body is worn.
Yeah. And it'd be like, through it. You could kind of tell when he'd come in the door if it's a good day or a bad day, like if supper's going to have a vibrant conversation or it's going to be a silent supper.
Okay. Yeah.
And it wasn't like that. Like
no, I know what you're saying. Like it's usually like you can kind of read the room.
Yeah.
Like,
and then sometimes he'd come in, we'd have dinner and it'd be silent. He'd go up, shower.
Yeah.
New man. Like once he got that moment to himself, kind of got to settle in after work, life was good. Yeah. But then there's other days like, how was your day? Good. And you're like, okay, your day wasn't great, right? No, so just kind of watching that and just like his body not failing him, but like he's like got some bad shoulders, bad knees, which are from other injuries and stuff. I know,
like I always hear people that are like, oh yeah, like teaching, like that's a lame job. Yeah. And then they're like, oh yeah, I've had 2 knee replacements, my shoulder, like my elbow. Yeah. Like this doesn't sound...
it sounded like his body was hurting a lot from doing the job he was doing, especially a mechanic. You're on your hands and knees a lot, you're on your back, right? Yeah. Like all these things. Yeah. So I made a decision. I mean, can't tell you what age, but I made a decision. I was like, I don't want to do labor. I have no problem doing it, Clark. I have no problem doing it.
Yeah.
But I just made the decision where I was like, this is not what I want to do. So actually, kind of what helped me make a decision, I went out to site. So I worked at Suncor for CETA for about 10 months.
Doing what?
I was technically just a laborer, but I worked in dredging and fluid management.
Okay.
So I was just called a field operator. I was just doing labor, turning these big manual valves in a field. Worked 14 and 7. If you stayed on that thing for a full year, for a 12-month period, you'd make right around $100,000. So 6 figures. All I had was a grade 12.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Worked with some fantastic people.
Yeah.
Met some cool people, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm out there. I'm like, this ain't for me. Like, I have so much more drive in my life. Like, I'm not just here to collect a paycheck, because that's what you felt like you were doing to an extent.
Yeah, and I find you're pretty much trading passion for pay is kind of like the... Not everyone. Some people go out there and they love it, and they're like, "This is my calling." I see big trucks everywhere, living my best life. But I remember because I worked a labor job only for like a summer student one, so I was still going through university. But if anything, it just kind of
reaffirmed.
Well, like one of the guys I was talking with, he would always be like, "Oh, you're gonna be one of those like NDP bastards." I was like, "I don't know, maybe we'll see." And
I haven't thought that far.
But he would just tell me things about like how great like his life was, and then I would hear other guys tell me like, "Oh yeah, this guy drank 16 drinks at camp last night." I'm like, "That's a crazy like life to lead," and I don't know.
No, it was a lot too. People was like, "Oh, let's get together on days off, go for drinks and stuff like that." Yeah. It's like, that's not really my thing. Yeah. And I didn't really want to hang out with those people after being 14 days with them on site. I didn't really want to hang out with my work friends for my 7 days off, right? Yes. And they were like, let's go hang out and stuff. And I'm like, you're all wonderful. I remember I had to tell 3 people I worked with, like we sat in a truck every day with each other for 12 hours. Our shifts were actually 13 hours. So we sat in the truck every day. They're like, oh, it's short change. Like, oh, let's go, like, get a drink, maybe see a flick, something.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I love you guys. I don't want to see you on my 7 days off. I'm like, I see you for 14 days. The last 3 people I want to see is you 3 people.
And so I've actually
people person, right?
When I've worked a couple jobs too, same thing. Because teaching, I think, is different because we don't really see each other during the day.
Yeah, we don't.
You might see each other for a bit at lunch because
yeah,
I'm a classroom lunch eating hero for whatever reason. Yeah. But it's different when you're teaching to like go out because you're actually literally kind of catching up still.
Yeah.
But people at those kind of jobs, when they would ask me to hang out, in my mind, it's just like, well, it's like soft commit, hard pass. Like I'm just
like, I'll let you know, right? Yeah. I'll let you know. I gotta go home and talk to the wife, make sure her dog didn't run away. We don't have a dog, something like that. You know what I mean? So I was bad for that too, and it's not that I didn't enjoy those people. I did.
No, but, and they're great people, and they're good friends. But it's like
looking at life a little differently. I think would be kind of my perspective from it.
But it's not even the going out part. It's just like you don't see enough of me at work already. Not even see enough. It's just I
think too, partly you got to think most of them weren't from Fort McMurray. So most of them came, let's say, from the East Coast, West Coast, wherever.
That's true.
And so they're also probably trying to establish that community a little bit versus, let's say, you and I. Yeah. I had a community, right? I had my family, I had my friends. Yeah. So finally those 7 days off is when I was going to get to see my people. No. Just perspective, right?
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going back to my practicum here. I felt like a big imposter during my IFX. Like when I got up there, Clark, I'm not going to be able to do this. Like,
what did you teach first?
Social 9.
Same.
So it was Social 9. It was the 5-week one, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit of Social 10 as well, actually.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah, a little bit of Social 9, a little bit of Social 10. Super enjoyment.
What was your first lesson about?
I can't remember, actually.
What? Okay, I think...
so it wouldn't maybe be my first lesson, but so when my practicum teacher, Vladko Boychuk, legend, awesome guy. Ukrainian Vladko.
Vladko.
He teaches the Ukrainian program in Sherwood Park at Archbishop Catholic High School.
Sounds like an intimidating guy.
Awesome guy. Super awesome. I should have tried to link up with him during convention, but I never did.
Okay.
Awesome guy, though. So he made it super easy. I mean, he's like, I just want to show you that you have the skills to do this job. Like, that's what I want you to leave this 5-week with. But so my first lesson wasn't really a lesson. It was like, hey, they were writing an essay on immigration. So he's like, here's are the pros to immigration, here are the cons. You're going to take them through the pros and cons. And he gave me all the stuff, right? Like, these are the pros, these are the cons. I just would have had to, like, add a little context to him. Yep. And so this was 15, 20 minutes only. So it wasn't even a full class. Because at this school, it's a 9 to 12 school. So their 9s are on the high school schedule. They do 87-minute blocks. They do 4 blocks a day, whatever the case may be. So it was the long blocks, right? Mm-hmm. They were long, those, but they were actually super easy too, right? Like once you get used to them, they were just normal.
Honestly, it's anything
like, so it's just like you get to do here, right? I couldn't imagine it now with being with my grade 9s that I have now. I couldn't imagine being with them for 87 minutes. But then it was just normal.
So do you think it's different because they're a 9 to 12 school? Like where we have a 7, 8, 9, that's like you kind of just go in and do it with a different...
Because they're they weren't really that separated. They were kind of, like not really. Like there was no junior high atrium, no senior high atrium like we have here, right? It's all one big atrium, all one cafeteria, one large gym, or they had 2 gyms, but all sections use those gyms. And then I think just the grade 9s, they get accustomed that I am the little dog in the school. I'm working my way up the ranks. As they walk through the halls, because class change were the same times, whether their classes were in, like, let's say a specific corner of the school, they would still come across, older kids and stuff like that. But for the most part, they kept, definitely the 9s and 12s were pretty segregated. Like, I don't actually recall seeing many 12s.
Well, yeah.
But 10s and 11s, for sure, you would come across. But I liked it. I liked it that way. And if me and you, we would have been that way. No, we wouldn't have actually. Hey?
Well, so like when I went to grade 9, it was the first year McTavish opened.
Yeah.
So we went from being top dogs in elementary to being top dogs in junior high. You didn't go
I went to Father
McTavish. But so why didn't you come to McTavish? Because of the Edge program. That was kind of like the big thing.
Yeah. No, honestly, never even considered Edge, I don't think, me and my family.
Yeah.
My mom growing up, big on me going to Catholic school. Yeah. I remember I wanted to go to a different school. I can't remember which one, but I was like, I don't want to go to Father Merck. My older brother went to Father Merck. I was like, you've been going to Catholic school for 8 years. You're going to continue to go to a Catholic school. So I don't know.
Which is weird, because I went to a Catholic school till grade 8.
Yeah.
But it was almost never even a question that I was going to go to Westwood.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why it was Catholic, and then it was like, it's not even thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it was just, I think easy enough for my mom. My older sister, my older brother went to Father Merck.
It's just routine.
You're not going to go to a school on the other side of town that's going to make our whole family's life more difficult, right? Like even though if I was catching the bus or whatever, just different start times, all that. So I think it was just easy enough for my mom to say, no, you're going to go to the Catholic school, Father Merck, and that's the way it's going to be. Which was okay because as you know, I didn't spend a lot of time there at Father Merck. But I had a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
I met a lot of good people, like a lot of good friends that I still talk to this day. Yeah. So that was a big, I think, draw to Merck as well. As a lot of my hockey friends that I grew up playing with, most of them actually did go to Merck because there was the Merck Academy there.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because Kex was running it at that time.
At Merck. I did not know
so
that.
There was like a hockey academy with Kex and Slaney. And they ran that for years and years.
Wow.
So
Kex and Slaney.
So that was like I think a draw because we skated with him all the time in the summer. So I think it was an easy draw there. And I don't know about prices or anything, but maybe it was cheaper.
Well, I don't even know because I think it was Hewlin and another coach who did Edge here. But
it was,
I don't remember.
Yeah, but you guys had a good year that first year.
It was fun. It was fun. And like I wasn't an Edge or anything, but like it was
just fun being here.
It was just a gong show because I think everyone was kind of figuring it out a little bit, and we were just doing everything. Like, not that I was ever really a bad kid, but just trying to be a clown, I guess, was kind of the goal. But I don't know, not really working.
Yeah,
out
I think being top dogs 2 years in a row.
Yeah,
good
and I say just top dogs,
guys,
just meaning like we were literally just the highest grade. So like you had no potential bullying prospects.
I remember that because grade 8, I got to experience that as well. I went to Good Shepherd in Beacon Hill. Went there for kindergarten to grade 8. And so we worked our way up, right? Where we always knew eventually we're going to be the oldest in the school. And you know how it was. That was kind of like, I don't want to say motivating, but exciting.
Like we get in the lockers. We don't have to use hangers anymore.
Yeah, like I'm going to be the oldest in the school. It's my school. Obviously nowhere near our school, but that's your young mindset, right? Is that I'm him. I got this. Nobody's going to stop me. And obviously then we had one grade 7 class and one grade 8 class with 33 apiece at that time. Were big classes for 2 junior high teachers and 2 EAs. Yeah. So it was a lot for them. But then that made it fun for us because every single kid in grade 7 was in one class. They didn't split us up versus years before. I'd be in class with my brother and a couple friends. And then, a couple of my other friends were segregated in a different class. Yeah. And then eventually we all merged.
Which is nuts.
I felt, now that I look back and now that I'm a teacher, I'm sorry to those teachers. If you ever listen, I'm sorry. But a lot of fun, right? A lot of good experiences. Mm-hmm. And then moving up to grade 9, we weren't the big dog anymore.
Yeah. Especially back then,
I feel
it was
like,
different.
I don't know. I feel like around grade 9 or 10, started to kind of like, I don't know, not worry about things like that so much, right? Like you were just kind of, I was just kind of living, I guess. As
well, so I guess before I even go further, like what you were kind of going back and forth of what to even do for a living, had that kind of cognitive struggle, I guess, to an extent. Mm-hmm. Why was education one of them?
I actually had no idea. So I wanted to do power engineering. Yeah. Now that's not for me. Yeah. Tried working at site. Now that's not for me. Yeah. Didn't want to do a trade. That wasn't for me. Yeah. And I thought about sports management because, again, I like working with people. I love sports. So history and sports were kind of my 2 things growing up. Mm-hmm. And history never really came along till high school where I kind of light bulb went off for me. Mm-hmm. And then I was sitting there and I was just like going through, your 20-year-old crisis or your young teen crisis. What am I going to do with my life, Mom? Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm just going to be a bum, whatever the case may be. And then, like, well, what do you like to do? I'm like, I love history. I love sports. Like, so, like, I would love to do something that involves both those things. And then my older sister, Jenna, so she's only 16 months older than me, so not much older than me.
Really?
Yeah, only 16 months. So we're very close in age.
I thought she was like 3 years older.
No, so she was only a grade ahead, a grade and a half ahead. So 2 grades, sorry.
Okay,
but,
grade and a half.
Yeah, grade and a half. I'm not that smart, but so I 16 months. She was a year and a half ahead, right? But so she was in 2 years ahead. Oh, but she was very close to me. But she was just like, "What about teaching?" Yeah. And I was just kind of sitting there, and like when you're kind of sitting there, and you can visualize something. It was like a light bulb went off. And I was like, that might be it. Yeah. I'm like, wow. I'm like, oh, that's actually a good idea. Started thinking about it, started looking into it, and I didn't do much research, Clark, but I dove right in. I was like, this is it. I think that's it. Like, this was the one where I actually, like, when I talk about power engineering sports management, I'm like, meh. Yeah. Sounds, meh. Like, it's not really what I think I want to do. Mm-hmm. And when she mentioned that, I was like, it was like a light bulb. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I can do the sports, right? I have the coaching ability. Like, I have that option. And I get to talk about history. I'm like,
it's not a bad gig.
That sounds like a win-win, right? I'm like, I said I want to get those 2 things involved. So once I get those 2 things involved, I think I'll be content. Mm-hmm. And so my sister said that, and it was kind of like a light bulb for me went off. And that's exactly where I chose. I ended up choosing it, applying to school, and I was like, I'm going to go through with this.
At any point during practicum 1 or 2, were you like, maybe this isn't for me?
I would say I had like thoughts, but not doubts. Like,
okay.
So I'm very much like when I commit, I commit. Like I'm like loyal to the soil. Like so once I got in there,
you against like, snafu.
I was like, yeah. I was like, I'm never gonna back out, I guess. You know what I mean? Like I was going through this no matter what. And even still here in my first year, I've had some negative thoughts, but I never thought, oh, I can't do this for the rest of my life. I'm still like, yeah, I got this. Like, and so I had some thoughts in the practicum. The first practicum, I think it was just mostly intimidating, right? You're scared. Yeah. Like, can I really do this? Do I look like an idiot? Yeah. Because I feel like one. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but once I got through that, it was like gravy. You know what I mean? It was just like, I can do this. We can do anything we want, right? As we know.
There's a lot of freedom in it. Like you have, if anything, the stuff that's given to you is almost comforting in a sense, because at least you kind of know where you're going, even if you do want to change it up for a day or two. Like you kind of have a routine that you're in. But
and I think too, a lot of people were like, you got like the hardest part's building relationships, right? Or like that's gonna be
that was kind of the easy.
That's where
not
I
the
feel
easiest
too,
part,
not easy, but it was like where people like,
the most natural
really
part.
Want to build relationship. That's what I would say too. It's very natural for me. I've always had a thing about like, I don't know, I get along with everybody. I always say to people, I communicate with anyone. Like, don't care who you are. You could be someone sleeping. I'll find a way to have a conversation with you. You know what I mean?
How's it going, man? Why are you so tired?
Yeah, like so. I always felt like when people are like, relationship building, that's gonna be the big one. I'm like, I feel like I can relate to a lot of kids. Like I feel like did a lot of sports, love school, like to an extent, like the history side, so I can do a little more of that, like education component. And then also too, I play video games, right? Like so I felt like I had a lot of avenues that I could kind of like poke at. Like I played hockey growing up, but like in school I did basketball, volleyball.
So I don't even think I've told you this yet, but there was one ice time that you and I were on the ice together.
Okay, I don't know, years ago. Yeah,
so
decades.
I think. Well, I mean, I probably would have been 14. I think it was. I think I had just started playing hockey. I remember you were doing drills. It was at Frank Lacroix. And
wasn't an asshole, was I?
No. But you were just tearing it up. Like you were flying on your skates. Yeah. And I mean, I can't really skate well, but like even then, just starting out, like, it was crazy. Yeah. What do you think hockey gave you in terms of like?
Lots. Like we could talk about that for lots.
Like what do sports provide, but maybe even especially hockey?
I think it would apply to almost all sports because you're passionate about sport. Commitment, right? Yeah. Like, so ability to like commit to something, that teamwork, which is so big in the world today, like in these classrooms, even with us working as staff members, being able to work on a team. Yeah. That was a big thing. Showed me a lot about like what type of person I'd want to be. Like, do I want to be a leader or a follower? And my mom always said, be a leader, not a follower. And so like that was kind of like, and I know we were joking around in the hallway about going the other way. Yeah. But so it was like, like I want to be that person.
Well, you also never want to be like, I'm going to be the leader. It's like, but when called upon, we'll figure it out. Right.
I think it teaches you a way to build relationships because as you know, people you work with in life, people I played on teams with, didn't love everybody. But I had love for everybody. You know what I mean? Like I never got along with everybody.
So I guess
I always had love for everybody.
What were like the characteristics of like the worst teammates you had?
I would say it's like hard to say bad teammates. So let's say selfish, like someone only worried about themselves, which I understand we all got to worry about ourselves. Yeah. And they on a team, we were worried about the name on the front, right? As they say. So let's just say here, we're worried about the Marauders. We're not worried about the Hamilton or the Clark, right? Which again, you are trying to get a scholarship or something like that. Yeah. But we're doing this we're trying to win together, not alone. Yeah. So I'd say selfishness. And then just just joking around, right? I love to joke around, as you know, with time and place, which I tell my kids a lot nowadays. We could be getting ready for a big game and someone's messing around. And I'm like, I usually, not all the time, but I usually wore a letter on teams I played with here in Fort McMurray and even in Fort Saskatchewan. So I always felt like I had to take on that role to keep everybody focused on the end goal. You know what I mean? And it's like, as many of us did.
Yeah.
So I just remember one guy, he would always mess around, and he knew it bugged me. So then he would push my buttons more. And I'm like, man, you need to stop. Like, I'm trying to win here too. And we weren't that good, Clark. Like, we didn't win a lot of games.
No.
But that was like our coaches, right? Instilling
but
this
even for
mindset
Saskatchewan?
Or yeah, we weren't that successful there either.
Okay.
At all, really. So it wasn't much different than here. So it was like, that was one negative thing about playing hockey, is it never had a lot of success in winning, but it taught you a lot of resiliency. Yeah. Because, Clark, we lost a lot, right? So, but it was like, never give
maintaining that, like,
never back
standing
down,
back up. Well, right? like just
keep
continuing,
going. Just
keep committing, going. And so, you know
and
what?
So then over time, like, if we think about that now, taught me a lot of resiliency, right? That, hey, been cut from a lot of teams, cried a lot, come back the next year, make that team, be one of the better players on that team, and then be like, so like try and prove people wrong, right? So that was always a big thing too. Same thing within school, sports. It's like, who can I prove wrong today? Like, who can I show? Like, someone tells me that I'm too small, I'm not strong enough. Like, I got that a lot growing up. And like, you know, petite men. Yeah. Like, you're not strong enough. You need to get strong.
I wouldn't call you a small guy, but yeah.
But like, for the most part, that's how I've always viewed myself, I guess. It's like, you got to get stronger. You got to get stronger. And I've tried. Yeah. Some that I never did well. Yeah. But it's like, how can I prove you wrong, right? Like, you're saying I need to get stronger. I'm going to show you that I'm strong. Yeah. Stuff like that. So I was always big on the resiliency thing. Hard work, too. Like, we were practicing 4 times a week, plus dry land. So 5 days a week, this hockey was. Then weekends. So it was 6 days a week minimum. Yeah. Minimum. So it was like hardworking, resiliency, selflessness, too, right? Because, again, I'm not worried about myself. I'm worried about everyone else around me. I'd say that made a big impact, even now, going into my teaching career. I see a lot of kids struggling with resiliency. So I'm like, how can I get them to show, like, hey, we're going to put tough things in front of you. How are you going to respond? How are you going to respond when adversity
overcome the
faces?
doubt? Because exactly. I like your thing of like thoughts, not doubts. Yeah. That's a good, like...
Yeah, you got to just be more positive, I guess. And again, this took me a long time to learn too, right? I had a lot of negative thoughts where...
Well, it's kind of like you're learning it without realizing you're learning it. Yeah. That's kind of...
And that's, as I've gotten older, now that I look back, I'm like, wow, school, these teammates, everything, they've done a lot for me.
And so as you're going through, like did the coaches get paid to do like AAA and stuff? Like what was
So I want to say yes, but I don't know for sure because I wasn't too worried about those things, right? It would make sense though. Like you apply for the job through minor hockey, you probably get paid. Would you get paid a lot? Okay. Probably not.
But like at least enough to like you're not paying to do it kind of thing is what
like where it could cover maybe your travel to and from. Yeah. The locations you need to go. But most like all my coaches worked other jobs.
Yes.
Like, all of them had their full-time jobs and they would come do the coaching in the evening as well. So they didn't make enough to survive, right? But they definitely must have made enough to make it worth it. But I'm assuming most of them got into it because they were passionate about working with kids and teaching them about the sport.
So were they usually like former high-level players?
Honestly, even then you weren't that like involved.
Oh, really? I feel like if I had my coaches, I would have been like, what's their hockey DB immediately?
Most of them definitely played a decently high level or coached a high level.
Yeah.
Like, there were some that played I just remember like one, his sons played decently high level, played junior. And then one, I just remember he coached junior. So he coached in junior A here in Alberta. He coached all over. And then he just had a passion of working with younger kids. He just felt like that's where he made the biggest impact. And then that's pretty cool. Like, to give up. He was trying to work his way up. If you get to junior, the next thing could potentially be college, right? Yeah. Then go on to pro. But he was like, he took a step back, actually, was like, no, like this is where I can make the biggest impact. So that's what he chose to do. He's actually still doing it today.
Wow.
In the CACHS or something. Either way, in Edmonton, doing a prep school there, which, he was a teacher and now he's a program director for hockey.
See, and that's what I find even from a coaching perspective, like the different kinds of jobs that come with sports management are things that you would never even assume existed when you're not as involved in it. Because even people I know who are doing like sports management and like economic development and like tourism, like there's so much behind the scenes stuff that goes into even just minor hockey. And if you like follow that as much as you can, even to go play junior B or junior A, if you like, even just to be involved in those communities, like so many opportunities can come up that you're not even aware exist.
So much to go that makes the ship run, right? Or makes the engine run. Like there's so much to it.
It's not just people on the ice.
Yeah, like there's so much sponsorships, right? Like busing,
Yep.
parent volunteering, like bottle drives, like there is a lot to make the wheels turn, right?
Yes,
and then,
even like directors of arenas and stuff. Like there's so many levels to it.
You gotta be aware of, right? Or be involved in to make everything run smoothly.
Yeah.
And even to like booking ice times for practices, stuff like that. Like I couldn't even imagine.
No, I know. I see. Even
we were playing
like
around Edmonton, Fort Saskatchewan. They had so many teams. They didn't have enough ice in Fort Saskatchewan. We'd be practicing in Bruderheim, Gibbons, St. Petersburg, all over the place.
Yeah, because Gibbons isn't too bad, but that's
No, but they were about 20, 30-minute drives to get to practice. And that was tough when you were younger, when you couldn't drive, as you got to drive,
especially
right?
billeting. Like that's...
Yeah, so it'd be tough on my billets. Usually I'd get picked up by a teammate whose parents are taking them there no matter what.
Okay.
But then as we got older, like we'd carpool together. So it'd be like,
that's fair, I guess,
going in a car together. But mind you, we practice at 5:30 going out to Gibbons. It's rush hour. So it's like bumper to bumper traffic going from 100 kilometers to 50 to dead stop. And you're just driving out there in the middle of winter for an hour and a half practice, which we never realized the dangers, right? But my mom's like, text me when you leave, text me when you get there.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? I want to know you got there safe. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm going to get there safe, Mom. But, that's just a parent thing.
Yeah.
And now that I think back, I'm like, yeah, it was, well, not that it was dangerous, but there were risks, right? There were risks that were there. And it was always like, when you're like, I don't want to go practice out there. I got to drive 30 minutes versus being here in town. Yeah, so lots of challenges there. Yeah.
And so now that you are kind of, because you're literally like a peak coach now. So how's that? Has that been weird? Kind of going
Super
from
weird,
player to coach. I know
weird,
you go from student to teacher, but like, what's it been like?
Similar experience.
Yeah.
But definitely going from being a player all the time. As a player, it seems so easy to be a coach, right? Like you're like, oh, these guys just show up and they just start throwing stuff together.
Yeah.
Kind of been the beginning, big imposter syndrome at the time. Talking my first practicum, I was like, am I built to be a coach? Can I do these things, right? Are these kids going to listen to me? Yeah. Am I doing good drills, whatever the case may be? So this whole year has kind of been like that, which at the beginning, it's hard on myself. Like, I'm not doing a good enough job. And now as we've gotten later on, I'm like, I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm learning on the fly, right? Like same thing with this job, teaching and coaching. You're learning on the fly. So I'm like, I'm doing pretty good for myself right now. Am I perfect? No. Yeah. Am I the best coach in the world? Heck no. Yeah. I'm like, for my first year, my first few months, I'm like, I think I'm doing a pretty effective job. I think.
Did you have similar kind of pre-practicum feels for your first ice time?
I wouldn't say, because I did hockey for so long.
Yeah, it's almost more of a comfort zone.
In my abilities, right? When I went into practicum for the first time, never did it before. So that's where the unknown, right? That's what fear scares me in life, is the unknown. Yeah. Where you don't know what's ahead. Yeah. I don't mind that. Like, I like being able to, like, I'm not a huge planner. Yeah. But the unknown on stuff like that, the anticipation stress, the lead up, that's what eats me alive. Yeah. So that really ate me alive my first practicum. But then, like, if I tied into my second practicum, I was like a breeze, because I was just like, I already did this. It's gonna be fine.
Did you do any sports in your practicums?
I did. I helped my in my AFX. I helped my mentor coach junior high basketball. So he was a junior high basketball coach. He did it by himself, and I'd help him. So I'd be at every practice, every game. Yeah. Was I doing a whole lot? Was I doing a whole lot of coaching per se? No. But I was kind of just like that positive figure, like, and like I could see the kids getting down on the bench. I'm like, we're not out of this yet. Like, you need to support your teammates out there. Yeah. Really just trying to show them how to be a good teammate. Yeah. My mentor had kids. So he would, let's say practice end at 4:30. The kids are like, hey, can we like shoot around for 30 minutes? Like, we want to just shoot around. Yeah. And he's like, I got to go. I'm sorry. And I'm like, hey, I'll stay with them if you're all good with that. He's like, will you? I'm like, yeah. And then I would stay there for 30 minutes, just let the kids play. And then at 5 o'clock, I'd lock the school up. I was like, oh, the doors were locked. But, I'd be the last one to leave the school. Yeah. And then we were good to go. That helped me build relationships, but also, too, right, just I was trying to, how can I help these kids get better? While I was not doing that much, how can I help them get better? And just being present there. It's a lot of good, it was a good learning experience. I think he was a really good coach. We actually won 2 tournaments, or 1 tournament for sure. Wow. I can't remember. I was there for 1. Which was pretty cool, right? Just seeing how happy these kids were. They put in the hard work all week or all year, and to have it be successful was good. Yeah,
because I ATA repped for basketball last year, but by no means would I ever take credit as being a coach. Yeah, I don't know. I found it, and I've talked to other people about this, like trying to coach sports that you never played. Yeah. And I've always been I mean, like, you saw the half court shot in the game.
Easy game.
But like to actually, and like I know kind of the fundamentals of basketball and whatever, but like to actually go and coach, I understand trying to support, but I've always felt like in every coaching area I've been in, it's like I'm doing the balance of like, am I an imposter or do I just genuinely not belong here? Which I think is like a genuine question. It's not even like I think like I'm helping with like grad events. Like this kind, I think that's more my lane. I kind of always say like first year was kind of just learning who you're not. You know what I mean? Just trying shit out and just being like, where am I going? Try everything. If you don't like it, don't do it later. And like, it's hilarious because now I do track and cross country, which is literally just run. So it's not really
and you
that.
Do old man walks, not old man runs.
I know. Sometimes there's running involved, but not all the time.
Yeah, running to your couch.
Yeah. That's crazy. I literally run to go sit down, which is kind of
oh, finally. Been waiting all day. Don't worry, I do the same. Man. I do the same.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Come in.
The challenge.
But yeah. So do you think you have like a coaching philosophy? Is that a weird question? I'm going to shut the door, Wickens, if you don't mind.
No, I wouldn't say like a massive coaching philosophy.
But like, would there be like a philosophy for coaching? Because I guess my question would be for coaching hockey. Yeah. It was always like, what is the purpose of having different coaches for the same game? Like, what do different coaches bring or offer you?
Yeah, so kind of like if the best way to be explained, especially for the listener, would be like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. Yeah. You have your good cops, you have your bad cops. Yeah. Usually the head coach could be the bad cop. Like, that could be like the perspective.
Okay.
Where they're the ones that are going to be hard on you. They're all hard on you, right? Yeah. But so, yeah, it depends. Your relationship with the coach could be too. Yeah, but that was my experience. Good cop, bad cop in each situation where you'd have some that are there, right? You might get shredded or you might get some hard feedback from a coach and you're maybe not responding to it well. But then you'd have the other coach come over and be like, hey, like all we're saying is that you just need to work harder or, this is what we're looking for. Like you can do these things, right? Then they're trying to encourage you, get you back on
different deliveries and stuff. Yeah.
And then so if we relate that to my philosophy, I never responded really, really well growing up to like super like hard, like screaming in your face. Like, you did this wrong. Like you need to be better. Don't worry. I can take that. Yeah. But that was never like, I never really loved that.
Well, you're almost like you want to play for your coach.
Yeah.
Is that like when if you're doing this, like, I don't want to play for you.
Yeah. And so like when it was super, like I could take hard criticism or like, good, hard, constructive feedback. You can yell at me. But when you yell at someone over and over and over and over. And like I said, we didn't win a lot of games most of these years I played growing up.
Yeah.
Eventually by after Christmas, like you're beating a dead horse, right? Like the message ain't getting through anymore.
It's like you're playing snafu every game.
Yeah, you're just screaming at me and I'm like in one ear out the other. And I'm not even that because I really tried to stay present all the time. Like I took a lot of passion in trying to be present, trying to do this, but eventually it just gets drowned out. And then I stop responding in general and I just start going through the motions where I'm like, okay, it's March, another month and the season's over and I can reset kind of thing. And
so you're looking forward to resetting, which is actually interesting because I feel like that's...
And it wasn't even that I was looking for a reset because as soon as the season over, I wanted to continue skating. I wanted to continue playing hockey, but I was just looking for a new voice of reason. Like I just was looking to be encouraged more sometimes. And most people did encourage us a lot, right? Like most of them did a really fantastic job. But it's like, we are 11 and 22. We know we suck. If you tell us we suck, we already know. You know what I mean?
You can't hurt me.
Versus like, instead of like, hey, like we're right there. Like, I know the record's not great, but like we're right there in every game. Like if you think about 10 games, we lost 3-2. If we get a bounce our way, we could be 22 and 22, which is a massive difference, right? Yeah. Again, those aren't the exact numbers of the games, right? But so now when I go and coach, I'm like big encouragement. Like I like to be, if I had to put myself as good cop, I'll be tough cop too. But it's like, Clark, I believe in you. Like you're like, oh, I'm struggling to do this today. And I'm like, that's okay. Some days are tougher than others, but like I believe in you. So I try and be very, very positive with every message I send.
Bad
even my
thoughts,
negative
no
message.
Doubts, I think,
So I just, that's mine kind of thing. It's more a positive approach because I feel like kids nowadays don't respond well to negativity, which even in my teaching experience here, I'm trying to talk to a kid. Yeah. If I'm like harsh on them, like, so if I'm like upset, they're coming back at me sometimes. Yeah. Versus if I'm like, hey, can we go outside and have a conversation? And I'm like, I need you to understand. I understand your point. Can you understand mine now? And I'll try and tell them like, hey.
Like validation of their point.
So they're like, And let's just say, like, let's just use an example of kids like sitting, like someone trying to sit next to somebody's desk. So like take a chair, put it in the middle of the aisle.
Yeah.
Like you can't do that. They're like, why? It's not bugging anyone. I'm like, it's bugging me, one. But it's like, so if you do that, you're the only person doing that. So then that makes everybody else feel like they're obligated to do that. And I'm like, and that's not the rule that we're trying to set.
It's the first domino that falls.
Yeah. I'm like, and so like, if you are on your phone the whole time, or if you're sitting in the lane the whole time, then everybody else is going to want to be in that lane too, or going to be wanting to do exactly what you're doing. And so I'm like, do you understand my point now? And then usually they're like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, so I understand that, hey, you're not feeling well today and you don't really feel like being in social studies. Guess what? I didn't sleep last night and I don't really want to be teaching social studies today. But guess what? That's my job. And your
I
job
think being real with them always helps too.
Yeah. And that's why I just try and be very truthful, very honest. And just, real, as you're saying, where I think they can respect that, right? Where it's like you're not BSing them. Mm-hmm. Where, where I could say that chair in the lane, it's a fire hazard. Yeah. When reality of the situation, it's
fire comes in, you're the first one dead.
Yeah. Like when really it's not, right? It is. Yeah. It's a hazard for me trying to get down the aisle to observe kids and stuff. Yeah. But I just remember that as like a kid or something. Somebody like, oh, you can't sit there because it's a fire hazard. I'd be like, well, if there's a fire, that desk is 3 pounds. I will throw it.
Yes.
I will throw it out of the way for you. You know what I mean? Like stuff like that. So just trying to be real where it's like, no, you just can't do that because you're ruining the structure of the classroom.
Do you feel like you get teacher karma at all?
What do you mean?
You're kind of getting
sure
what you were.
Oh, for sure. And like I consider myself like I was a decent student. I wasn't great.
I wasn't good at all.
I wasn't terrible, at least my perspective. I had my moments for sure. I just wasn't a big effort kid. I was I was smart enough to pass stuff by just doing the work in class, like just showing up and being a present student. Yeah. But I wasn't big on homework and stuff like that. But also, man, I was working hard outside of school, like, with sports and stuff. But I can see that a lot now where I see these kids and I'm like, I'm just trying to tell them, like, if you come to school, you do your work, I'm not going to call home.
Yeah.
If I don't call home,
it's a simple formula.
Mom and dad aren't going to bug you. If you have your grade passing, nobody's going to bug you.
How do you think kids are different from when we were in high school? Because we're only like 10 years removed.
It's tough because we don't really know what we were like in high school. We have our perspectives,
That's
right?
Fair.
We have our perspectives.
We don't actually know what we were like.
Like if you think back your perspective, it's like, oh, I was great. I was a good student, all this. And then if I think back, I'm like, yeah, I did some bad things too, right? Or some wrong things. But the biggest thing I see, which like I think is a difference for myself, is like no resiliency. They can't face adversity.
Yeah.
You put something hard in front of them, they'd rather not try, take the 0, than even try. Where it's like,
that's fair.
Like, I will reward you for trying.
Like, I will reward you. Take the test and fail. It's like, I'm just not doing it.
Yeah. Versus I'm like, oh no, I didn't study that night. But I'm like, oh, I got this. Like, I'm smart. Like I'm smarter than your average bear. I can do this. You know what I mean? So then I'm like self-talk to pump myself up. Like, hey, I can do this. Versus them, I feel like they just shut down. Like, I am not the smartest bear. So I am absolutely... There's no chance. Like I hear that a lot. There's no chance. Like I hear kids, there's no chance I'm going to graduate and stuff. And mind you, I know I had negative thoughts like this, but just the way every single day they come in, I'm not smart. I'm not going to graduate. I'm not going to this. And I'm like, yo, you're going to graduate because I'm going to drag you across that line if I have to.
Yeah. Well, it's almost weird that like graduation has been diluted, I almost find, in my experience. In terms of like, it seems easier to be passed. Now, even I don't know. Maybe it was always this way.
Yeah,
like the social promotion kind of comes in grade 12 a little bit more ish because you're just trying to like literally get them out the door because really
so close, right?
A lot of their experiences of life are going to be once they're not in high school anymore. So you don't really want to prolong that those key, I think 18 to 20-year-old years of like. Go figure yourself out outside of here because you actually have the freedom to change. Because I think people
actually learn the most. I think actually.
Well, you associate your identity with your school identity, so you're actually forced to craft something new. Even if you're at a university, it's like, oh, there's people here who are like professors who have been like teaching for 30 years decades. And like know their ins and outs of everything. And so it just kind of and like people are here to get a career, not because they're mandated to be, which is weird. It is a different kind of ball game.
Then that's like, it's not a problem with high school or anything like that. But I think when you graduate high school, you should take like a year, work, travel. Don't go to school yet, though. That's my opinion. You
really?
can go to school, I would say.
I've always said like people probably
don't choose your program right away. Go take some feeler courses. Take a psychology
2 or 3
course,
even.
a sociology course, like a math course, whatever you're thinking.
Yeah.
I personally don't think you should jump right into your program. I didn't right out of high school. So I didn't go start university till 20. But then I was like, in these 3rd, 4th year classes, I had like this person who was like, so I would have been like 24.
Yeah.
And they're like 20 or 19 because some of them finished
like,
early.
what are you trying to rush through?
Yeah. And I'm just like, they're like, to me, they were more concerned about the grade, right? Like they're like, just like a lot of kids are here in high school. What's the product? What's the grade look like? Versus I was worried about the grade, but I was also like, I felt like taking more in, like trying to understand these perspectives, why things are the way they are. And I just found like,
I know. I was always like an A minus B plus student.
Yeah.
Like people who I always found were like the A plus students were like the least relatable.
They were just so focused on the product. Right?
But it was almost like, I think in some way damaging to be that. I don't know. Maybe I'm.
Well, I would just say
maybe I'm excellence shaming here,
like,
but
no. Like I don't think you mean it in a bad way. I just think they were so focused on the grade, they weren't focused on like the socialization of with their peers, building maybe relationships with people you might work with one day. Yeah. They weren't really talking to the professor like, "Hey, how are you doing, sir?" Like I'd always try and be very personal, even with my professors. I would always say, "Thank you, have a great day." All that
just
stuff.
Simple and honestly, that's stuff I noticed the most from the students is like even just after a general class, they're like, "Thanks, Mr. Clark."
Yeah,
I'm like.
Just showing
that's such a small gesture, but I think those compound. I think
it goes a long
way.
way. Yeah. Versus I would have like others, people I worked with in group stuff. They're like,
so
I need to go talk to Mr. Clark because he only gave me a B plus, and I know this is worth an A. And in my head, I'm like, who cares? You're passing the course.
Yeah, and doing well
in our program. You do not need to get into another program.
No,
and I understand good grades. Yes, you should deserve. You deserve that A.
Yeah.
But is it worth fighting, or losing sleep over?
Yeah, and not even that I would, but is it worth the heavy interaction?
Yeah, the confrontation,
it's just
we like to avoid that.
Yeah, I think I just found the title, avoiding confrontation. Yeah. But another thing I admire about you is your ability to proceed throughout your day without coffee. But I guess my question would be, how do you keep your social battery up and how do you keep yourself turned on in front of the kids?
Honestly, I don't know. I personally just think it's natural. Like maybe undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know. I just I don't know, man. Really though, when I think about it, I've always just been a talker. Like my family, family of 6. So if I have 4 siblings,
it is just a more chaotic environment where it's like weird. If
my home life was always 6 people, which is a decently big family.
That's 5 people. Well. 2 brothers.
But it was like if you don't speak, you don't get your word in my house. In my house growing up, so it's like you learn to speak and get your piece in, right? Yeah. And I think part of that would just make me super personable, super social. Yeah, having a twin brother. He had a best friend with you every time, so I was always talking to someone. And then, it's like, so if he invited a friend over and I didn't, I had 2 friends over, right? With him and his friend or whatever. So you were always kind of socializing, always just 2, right? Like big teams, like in schools all the time. Mm-hmm. Like my one friend came over every day after elementary school. Like his parents would work and pick him up around dinner time. So I was with him 24/7. Growing up in Beacon Hill, a small community, you're always socializing with people. How I keep the battery going now, I don't know. I used to drink coffee when I did work at site, mostly because I just felt like I have to. I feel like
what I've, like, I don't know, I just admire you so much. But like I remember my first, I'm only a year longer than you, for whatever that even means. But like when I was finished working, it's like I wouldn't stop stressing about everything and just be thinking about it, even though I was still working in my mind. But I feel like you are good at shutting down your mind.
I'm not. I do struggle with it some days. Yeah. I feel like I'm very good at coping with stress. Okay. Just growing up in a big family, a lot of stressful situations. Yeah. I could see when my parents were stressed and how they were
process
reacting.
Things quickly.
Yeah, like I felt like if I go back to my dad, he'd come home, I could see he was stressed or frustrated.
You're
good
at reading and moving.
And then I was like, I don't know, the way he was responding didn't make me feel great. So I'm like, I'm not going to respond that way. Like I felt like I was able to like pick up on things like that.
Observing a lot.
Yeah, and just like my observation of people stuff. I'm like, I'm able to pick up things. Or like,
that's the nice part about being a younger sibling too, though.
Like,
you pick up on so much. Like, oh, I don't like that. I didn't like how that played out. But
no, and then now even too as a teacher, right? I'd be like, you notice Lucas is off today. He didn't laugh once today. What's wrong with him? And I'd be like, what's wrong? And just But overall, where you say like turning it off, I do struggle with that a lot, especially at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I felt like now that I kind of have my feet under me, like I got it figured out. Where it's like, I felt like if I don't get this mark back to them in the next 5 days, I'm a failure, or their parents are gonna be messing me, and min team's gonna be on me, whatever the case may be.
I used to hate teachers that would take so long to mark, and I'm now one of those people. I'm that guy too. I am that guy. I don't know why that happened. Yeah, sorry for my impatience, but I only got one more question for you, Mr. Hamilton. I end off every pod with the same question. Education is what remains once we forget everything that we learned in school. What is it that you want your students to take away from their time with Mr. Hamilton that they won't get with anyone else?
So I feel like this would be like the reason I got into teaching in general. I want to teach them the content. I love talking about history. Like I said, I want them to know all the important curricular outcomes. But really, what do I want them to learn at the end of the day is what does it look like to be a good person? Am I a good person? Some days, not every day. But I'm like every single day, I want them to know what it's nice to be a nice person or someone who cares for you. Is pretty much all I want them to take away when they leave grade 9. It's like, like Mr. Hamilton was nice. Like he made us feel like we were welcomed or made us feel good about ourselves. Good. Yeah. While we were in his class, made us feel special, whatever the case may be. But I think about this a lot actually, where I'm like, I don't care about the content. I do, as we all know, we care about the content.
Yes.
But I just want
it becomes only a part of it.
Yes. What a good person will look like out in the real world. So when they interact with someone, a stranger in the grocery store, I want them to think of Mr. Hamilton. Hey, how are you doing today? Something along those lines, because I actually love interacting with strangers.
That's why your grocery visits take like 2
hours.
Yeah,
I can't go anymore. I got to click and collect, man. I'll never get out of there. No, and even, don't get me wrong, there are, like, especially here in, like, I go to Superstore, I'm like, blinders on, get me in, get me out.
Yes. Yeah.
But when I do run across somebody I know or haven't seen in a while, it's like riding a bike. It's like, oh my God, how are you doing? Yeah. So good to see you. All these things. But yeah, if they could take one thing out of grade 9 when they come to grade 10 next year, is how to be a good person. Something along those lines.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, sir.
Gravy.
Gravy. Hello again, everyone. Just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to listen to our conversation here today. If there are any issues with professional conduct or you would like to share your own story, experience, or have something you would like to contribute to the show, please reach out at mrclarkafterdark@gmail.com or send a direct message on Instagram to @mrclark.afterdark. Hope you all enjoyed, potentially found something of use, and of course, please do not forget to subscribe. See you next time, unless you're scared.